What up, guys? The offensive Madman, Kyle Robinson, coming to you today with the first, that was dumb. The last video in the first Marvel Spider-Man game, the official City That Never Sleeps DLC. Man, this game is something. So I wasn't sure. Let's start here. Obviously, you do not see my face, which means we are going to be in review mode, which is, never a bad place to be. But let's go ahead and break down what we are going to be doing and talking about a little in depth here at the beginning. Coming out of the Spider-Man game, the actual initial Spider-Man game, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was nervous because the original Spider-Man game was just fucking great. Like, all the way around was absolutely amazing. I can't justify that enough. If you haven't already watched it, at least go back and watch the review of the initial Spider-Man game. I believe that it actually deserved the awards and the praise that it received.
Better when you were in the waste management business.
Yeah, that's coming out of that game. I wasn't sure what to expect, but the game really did okay. Almost all of the things that I will talk about in this review is all positives. There really aren't a lot of negatives. There are a couple, but almost all positives. So that's something to think about here. And the first thing I'll actually bring around is the fact that all of the DLCs, all three of them, tied together. Now, some people might be like, oh, that's not really a surprise, but I didn't expect that, if I'm being honest. I went into this 100% blind, so I had no idea what to expect in the world of the DLC, especially. And the fact that they were able to put it all together and doing all that stuff was really cool. One thing I want to say real quick before we actually jump into the full-fledged review is in one of the videos, I might have edited it out, but I do know I said it originally. I had intended to do the detective missions, the ones that you had to go around and find the clues and do that. I did intend to do those in a video, as well as the final screwball mission. I had intended to do that in a video so you guys could see it. Truth be told, I'm glad I didn't. The detectives missions were cool, and we'll get into why I was a fan of those in the pros section. However, the screwball mission really was underwhelming. It was essentially the exact same thing that happened in the main game. The cutscenes were essentially the same. So you really did it. And on top of that, that last mission that you were required to do for the screwball, fucking atrocious. Oh my God. That's probably one of the worst missions in the game. If I'm going to be subjective, that was one of the worst missions in the game. So if you decide you're going to chase the screwball story down, just remember, it's not, other than the challenge tokens, it's not really worth it. And if you don't need the challenge tokens, find them, or if you need the challenge tokens, the challenges are fine. But be advised that the final mission that you do for screwball is just not good. Just know that. That's not even a con of the game. That's just me giving you a piece of friendly advice. Because that mission frustrated me to no end. So, let's go ahead and, like I said, we'll talk to the detective mission a little more in depth here as we get into the pros section of the game. So, pros, actually, Yeah, no, we'll do pros first. I was debating how I wanted to do this and structure it, but we'll do pros first. So, this game, one other thing before we do get started. Just a reminder, I will not be doing the visual breakdowns and all that stuff because it's not necessary. Obviously, with the way that this game branched off of the other story and stuff, really doesn't need to be talked about visually. We see how stunning it is, and you guys know my feelings on that. So, let's start with the pros of the game. The story introduced a brand new villain and even managed to make him a credible threat in a short matter of time. I was genuinely surprised they were able to do that. There was no hint of Hammerhead that I saw in the main game in all those hours we played. So the fact that they brought him in as a complete side villain was cool. Like, that was really cool, and I think they did a really good job building him up to be a badass in a short amount of time. The other big pro hints around that story, the detective story, and I'm gonna kind of give you a little bit of a spoiler, as it were, because that story was really cool. Really cool. But the thing of it was, it ended really, I was surprised at how it ended. And what I mean is, the story centered around a Magia hitman that killed a bunch of people on recording, talked about killing a bunch of people, and then about how Captain Watanabe, basically knowing he did it but couldn't prove it. And the one thing led to another, and she was featured real heavily in the second part of it, the Turf Wars story section. So that was kind of cool, and the fact that they kind of strung that story out and gave it a little bit of closure was cool, because at the end of the Turf Wars, she was placed on administrative leave. And at the end of this story, the detective story, she basically killed the mafia henchman and left a recording for Spider-Man talking about how it felt good to kill people.
Can't let those hammerhead thugs get away with all that
I
tech.
think she's going to set up somehow as a villain for Miles Morales, possibly, or even Spider-Man 2.
Whoa!
But I can't be absolutely certain of that. I just think that would be a cool tie-in, and they definitely sowed the seeds of that, which was neat.
Because it's about to get a little rough.
The story was well fleshed out, and even the side characters that were side characters really kind of had a point to play in the story, which is something you don't see a lot in games and game stories, especially now. So the fact that they gave a good fleshed out story
got so many dudes on the payroll,
and all that was nice. I was extremely happy that they pulled that off. The other big pro is that each part, because initially the parts of that story were unveiled and released separate. Now, I did play them as part of the expanded edition, so I was able to play all of them pretty much at a whim with no issues. But they did a really good job.
Sable's gonna be happy I got her stuff back.
At being
Actually, she
able.
won't be happy. She'll be just a little less angry.
They did a really good job at keeping you invested and making you want to invest and play the next line of the story. So that was something that you don't, again, walking that tightrope of
all units. A supply truck with Sable equipment is under
giving
attack.
DLC in
Officers
episodic
needed in
form
Please copy.
could potentially be a hindrance, but they did really good, I thought, in getting you invested in the characters and wanting to know where the story arcs went, and even giving some ties to potential future content like the Miles Morales game and things of that nature. So they did really good there. That's the pros. Obviously, fairly long list. In fact, that was a 4-minute list of good things. I know this because I've kind of kept tabs on the time. The negatives, and the only negative that I can find, that I can think of for this particular line of the story, is that when you line up each episode next to each other, each episode
somewhere close by.
gets shorter and shorter. And
That's my way in.
basically, the first episode was probably, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours.
At one of the hideouts.
And then each episode thereafter seemed to get shorter and shorter as you played. The Turf Wars section, which was the second part of the story, was probably 3-ish hours, while the Silver Lining we were able to complete in less than 2. So, if that tells you anything, it's that each episode progressively got shorter and shorter. And if I'm really going to have to be nitpicky and say, hey, this is a problem, this is the one thing I would say. And I only say that because you could have theoretically gotten away if you really wanted to do it from the perspective of just telling a story. You could have got away with 2 parts and done it that way. But they went with the cliffhanger endings, and they went with the storytelling tropes, and that's fine. But when you play the third part of a DLC and you're able to really knock out the main chunk of that DLC in less than 2.5 hours, even with the conclusive ending, some people are going to be left feeling a little bit upset, I would assume. I could be wrong. And like I said, personally, I think it was great. I think the story was fantastic. And I think that the overall development of the story and characters was good. So let's talk final thoughts, because I've given you pros and I've given you the one con, the only con of this game. And here's the thing. If right from the beginning, I'll tell you, well worth the playthrough. Ton of fun, had a blast with it, and I think that it did a lot of things
So Sable might have lost some of her family in the conflict.
So as far as the final thoughts go, the game did a lot with a little, and what I mean is that they were able to take a storyline, add it to an already expansive world, and really keep you invested in a way that a lot of games still can't. And this game's almost 2.5 years old at this point, I think it is. They also did a fantastic job with setting up Miles Morales. Now, I've heard a little bit of back and forth that Miles Morales was supposed to be a DLC as opposed to a fully fleshed out game. I don't know how accurate that is, but I've heard that, and if that is an accurate statement, then they knew what they had and they were willing to do something with it. And they set the threads of that up very, very well. So that's another one of those, hey, this is what they did right.
Trust me, it's
and that's you can't put a price on good storytelling, especially in video games. The other good thing I think the DLC did was it put some emphasis, not a lot, on the MJ and Peter Parker storyline, which didn't get, it got a little bit of attention in the main story, but they kind of fleshed out that relationship a little bit better, which was something that they didn't have to do, but I think that they did a good job of putting together and things like that. All in all, I think the actual story itself, the game itself, deserves a 9.5 out of 10. I think that they did a very good job for what it was. I think that they could have done a couple of things just a little bit better, but overall, it's about as close to perfect as you can get with what they were working with. And I will be the first to tell you that Spider-Man 2, when it releases in 2023, I think is what it said it was, I don't remember, will be a pre-order day one purchase from yours truly. By that point, we'll see where we are. We may do a stream of that. We may just do a let's play of it. But that game will definitely end up on my radar. Anything by Insomniac Games at this point is on my radar, if that tells you anything about how this game has went. As a whole, I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, even if you're not really a Spider-Man fan, but you're a superhero games fan, I think that this game is something you should check out. And they put it on sale all the time. I think it's definitely worth the money. And I think that you really should do yourself a service just by playing the game. Because realistically, it is, without a doubt, and I told my wife this and it kind of freaked her out, this is probably one of the best games I've ever played. And this is coming from a hardcore God of War, Uncharted fan, and I will say I think this game stacks up above those. So take that for what you will. So that's going to pretty much do it for this series of the Let's Play. We have finished the original Spider-Man. Next is Miles Morales. And before we do anything, I have the intention of getting that started next week, but we may end up waiting just a little bit and turning that around so that we end up starting that fresh after the first of the year. We will see. I will keep you guys posted on social media. So if you haven't done so, please be sure to follow me on Facebook, give a subscribe on YouTube, or follow me on Twitter. All of that is going to get posted there, and you'll get all of the updates to let you know what we're sticking to, what may be coming. The live streams are still going to be a thing, obviously, except for Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Probably will not be streaming those 2 days, but otherwise, yeah, gonna stick to the streaming schedule, and I think that's about it. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I enjoy these Spider-Man games, and I cannot wait to jump into Miles Morales, as I think it's going to be a lot of fun to explore that story, and that's going to be a fun setup for Spider-Man 2. So that's the next thing on this to-do list. We also are going to be coming back with the Kingdoms of Amalur playthrough. That will return after the first of the year. The goal there is to do Saturday episodes, while the Miles Morales game will still take the Monday through Friday time slots at noon, and the Kingdoms of Amalur are going to be at noon on Saturday, so that can continue. We might turn Saturdays into like a full-fledged RPG style day with the videos, just because there's a lot of big full-fledged RPGs I really want to play. And I think that's going to be just live. They don't work quite as well as you would hope. I don't want to bore you guys, if I'm being brutally honest, because there's a lot of semi-boring content in standard RPGs. So those are going to happen. We're going to be doing more of those in the coming weeks and year. And then we are also going to be doing a lot more Let's Plays. So if you guys have a suggestion for the Let's Play videos, or a video you want to see me review, because I do enjoy doing reviews, if you got a game you'd like to see me review, just drop those in the comments. I will respond and maybe get something set up so that we can get reviews out there, get some more reviews out on the table for stuff that you guys are curious about, interested in seeing. And I think that's going to do it for me today. I thank you guys so much for watching this Let's Play. This has been another eye-opening experience, and I've learned a lot. And I cannot wait to start Miles Morales either Monday or next week. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching as always. And until next time, the offensive Madman reminds you that if words offend you, you can fuck off.